Hi-oh, it's Vaulics, and welcome to another Pal vid. In this one, I really just wanted to see how high I could build. For some reason, I thought that building this high would give me a unique perspective on the game, perhaps some insight as to the meaning of it all. I can't say that it got me any closer to God, but I did learn that there is no limit to the height of your base. What this means is that even when you cross the perimeter of the blue Pal box bubble, as you build upward, you can still access the base resources, meaning you can have functional production units far above the limits of your Pal box. So basically, you have an infinite amount of space to build in, until the game prohibits you from building any higher, that is. And I can confirm that it does. Besides that, a few other fun things happen along the way to completing this tower, so let's get into the construction and eventual demise of this Palworld sky base. Okay, the first thing I did was just crank down a few world settings, stamina reduction in particular. Initially, I set out to build and discovered that the best way to do it was to just start climbing and then enter build mode and continue creating the upward wall while I was climbing up. But my stamina was a major bottleneck for this process, so I shelled out and dropped the stamina rate as far as I could. Shout out to Pocket Pair for the difficulty settings because they're very handy. I mean, I don't know what everybody else did, but I immediately cranked the experience and capture rate all the way up on this game when I started it. I wasn't about to sit around grinding in this world. Anyway, you all know what this is about. I went straight up with this tower until the game told me I was done. I gotta hand it to this girl. She was climbing a vertical face, framing the tower like a champ. Stopped just so that she could eat berries and re-up stamina. Anyway, it wasn't long before I noticed that the resources I was using weren't just the resources in my pack. I was definitely tapping all of the wood that we had stashed all across the camp. In fact, for a while there, I thought that the game had totally forgotten that there were limits on the resources at all. I was really hopeful for that. But there's just a numerical maximum of 999 that's shown in your HUD. It doesn't represent how much wood you have in the bank. Seeing that number just means that you have anything over 999 available to you. Anyway, this is when I discovered what is probably the only really useful piece of information from this whole stunt. You can build production lines far above your Pal box perimeter and you'll still be connected to your base. Like, you'll still be getting all the resources from them, you can store them, and they'll be accessible from every other place in your base. It's interesting, right? So the perimeter of the Pal box isn't just a sphere. It's really a giant cylinder that goes up and down infinitely. But I still had to test if this was true or not, so I framed the thing until the game told me it was enough. If you try this for yourself, you'll eventually get a message that says, it's too high. There it is. People are always trying to tell me that I'm too high. Anyway, my first order of business was to really check if this was at all part of the base. Like, actually. It could be that the glitch has limitations. So I built a quick lumberyard and a box so that me and my guy could make a quick transfer. As you can see, before our deposit, we had 1,767 lumber in the bank. And after depositing 5 shiny new pieces of wood produced at the very tippy top of the map, we had a grand total of 1,772 pieces in the bank. You could be sure that anything produced and stored on the sky deck would be accessible on the ground as well. In short, it's just a whole lot of space for production. I'm not really sure what you would need to do with all that space, but in any case, it's there for you to manipulate. That's that. After that rather nice discovery, I was wondering what to do next. I tried to build a Pal box up there so that I could just teleport myself up or materialize some Pal friends to work the sky deck. But the game thinks that there's another Pal box close by, which makes sense. The boundary of the base extends upward infinitely. So I realized that without a stairway going up, then I wouldn't be able to get any of my pals up there to mine or do handiwork unless they were on my team and I could just throw a Pal sphere. So I set out to make a giant staircase up to the sky deck. For anyone that's wondering the best way to do this, start at the top because the slanted roof piece is really quite difficult to build upwards with. It much prefers when you are looking down at your target instead of looking up. I made this mistake. I tried to build some other observation decks in the lower sections of the tower first, which required building stairways up to them, and it was just so tedious. Go to the top, go down with your stairs, it's always easier. As long as you cross paths with the wall units that you use to build upwards, then you will never run out of support, and you can just build the whole damn stairway in one go. Okay, this is a good time to mention that the perimeter of the Pal box outward will still be in effect even though you are like miles away from the structure on the ground. The game thinks you're still in the blue bubble, so keep that in mind. Anyway, once I finished the staircase, I just couldn't get enough of stepping back and looking at the dumb thing. I had to decide what the hell I was gonna put on top, because it had to be something really, really important, right? Something I absolutely couldn't live without. I also knew that it had to be something useful for the base, and also something insightful, so that people in the world besides myself could benefit from the information in this video. but I couldn't think of anything that met those criteria, so I just paced around for a while and came to the conclusion that I needed a piano room in the base, and this was gonna be it. I made a nice little music area where my character could work in her spare time, and then I thought to myself, I built this huge staircase, so I also have to put something functional up there, like something with functional mechanics that the pals could work. Best idea I came up with was a chicken ranch. So yeah, that went in there, and also I popped a generator up there because I knew I would need some lighting for my music stand. The lesson I learned at this stage is that when structures are out of reach, pals will just materialize to build them somehow, like magically. I was expecting the pals to use the staircase, because that's what I built it for. They just did it telekinetically, much to my dismay. As you can see, this chicken ranch appears to be building itself, which is yet another fun tidbit. For a second there, I thought the staircase might have been entirely useless, but the chickadees figured it out and managed to walk their asses all the way up to the sky deck. They really, really wanted to get up there to that ranch. I guess they just love laying their eggs. Honorable mention to Anubis, who was the second pal to figure out the stairs, but he didn't go up. He actually figured it out on his way down. So basically, he teleported up to build some stuff. I did, I don't know, some potted plants or something. Like I was saying before, it's a popular thing for pals to do. Pen King, especially, he teleported up pretty frequently, but he never used the stairs to get back down. He just always teleported back down. Anubis, I think, is just really, really fast. Maybe he just thought it would be quicker to run down? I don't know. But he's definitely hauling ass down those stairs, that's for sure. Besides those two pals, no one really figured it out. Oh, actually, I saw Kitsune going down the stairs randomly one time. I think that she might have gone up there to use one of the beds that I built for the Skydeck workers. Funny how that works out. She just decided to go all the way up to Skydeck just to sleep, even though that bed wasn't built for her. There are plenty of beds on the ground floor. Maybe if I had put some more structures up there, then I could have tested which pals would get it, which pals would get confused, if there's any difference between the individual pals, which might be a good idea for a video, honestly. But I ran into a much more pressing issue, which was that the size of this base was starting to tank my performance. So I usually play at 4K 120, which is a breeze for a 4090, but as I was building, I noticed my frame rate was steadily dropping here and there, until finally I was like in the 70s at the stage where you see it right now. I mean, this isn't unplayable at all, but this thing is so big that it's visible from every point on the map. So no matter where I was in the whole world, the frames were chugging, which is awful. So I knew the whole thing had to go, and I didn't have enough polymer to build a rocket launcher at the time, so I decided to just burn it down. Why not, right? I mean, it would probably look cool. So I backed up my save file, went back one last time to just check the place out, at night, of course, because I wanted to see all the lamps that I put in. I watched the sunrise one last time, and then I made preparations for incineration. At first I was very surprised that the fire didn't spread at all. I remember like some Incineram came to my base one time and just burned the whole thing down. He like caught one thing on fire and then the whole thing went up like in 15 seconds. Anyway, I guess that's not the case anymore. Maybe they tuned it back a little bit. So I had to tag every single piece connecting the tower to the ground individually, and then I flew over to my lookout point and waited. And then, suddenly, silently, the whole thing vanished into a mess of wood floating around in the sky. Yeah, unceremonious, totally unimportant. It was over. Oh, one last thing before I go. It seems that resources in this game can only fall a certain distance. I'm not sure if this is true of every object in the entire game, but at the very least, wood will only fall for a specific distance and then just float there. So now you can actually see the shape of the tower and floating wood above the base, which I think I'm going to leave there, just as a ghost of projects past kind of thing. Yeah, and we are sitting pretty at 120 frames per second again, though I doubt it's of any concern to anybody out there. Alright, that's it for me this time. It's really just been a silly journey with this building project. Maybe there's going to be more of this in the future, I'm not really sure. Palworld has proven to be a little bit more shallow than I initially thought it would be. So I'm probably going to be bringing back some more Lies of P content in the near future. Until then, I hope everybody's doing well. And always remember to keep on farming.